Yeah, let's go without the live stream.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So I hope I am visible. So yeah. So the reason I'm switching on my camera is actually just because I really like don't like the idea of talks where you just see the screen and you just hear the audio of somebody talking. So in general, I actually don't like the idea of talks. I like to teach. Okay, I'm a teacher. I consider myself a teacher at least. So yeah, so we want to start talking about this, right? And I I want you guys to take something out from this conversation, okay? From this session. I don't want it to be a passive listening session where you just listen to. And I personally have been in hundreds of AI talks where I got nothing out of it, okay? So I don't want this to be one of those talks. I want people to get something out from this, okay? So there are two things I want everybody to take away from this session, okay? Number one is fundamentally what is AI? We know it's not magic, right? It is some technology, right? So even without much technical depth, you can have an idea of, okay, yeah, at the end of the day, it is this, right? So this is the first thing I want you guys to take away from this. Number two is when you know fundamentally what it is, right? One thing it will do is it will remove the what do you say, the mirage, the spectacle of AI, right? It will remove the illusion of something grand, right? What it has, like what AI has become right now. It's something huge and grand and something magical and powerful, right? So first thing it will do is it will remove that. Okay. Uh, I have taught this to many people, and people came back to me and said, my God, I didn't know, like, well, this is all it is. So I'm going to be very skeptical of what outputs I get from ChatGPT. Okay, so that's the takeaway I want from this audience as well. Okay, that you're skeptical of what you get out from LLMs today. Okay, so this is the essential idea. Okay, so yeah, I think my screen is visible, right? So so this is essentially the topics I'm going to cover today. Okay, uh, it comes under the purview of essentially just the introduction. Okay, but I usually talk more than this. I take courses on AI. I talk about these several buckets of machine learning problems and tasks. Okay. Um, Recently, AI has gotten famous because of what it was able to achieve in language. Okay, in the early 2010s, it got famous because of what it was able to achieve in vision. Okay, several people were surprised that, oh my God, AI can do this, AI can do that. For example, speed cameras, right? When they were able to do these kind of things that deal with computer vision, AI got famous and got popular. Today, it is because of language, and someone can say also reasoning capabilities. So each of these is more than 12, 14 hours of sessions. We're not going to do that. I also teach, these minor tasks. Each of these is again a very long discussion that can be very technical. These minor tasks are essentially tasks that we do that we apply to our data set, so that to make it ready for the major tasks that we saw before, right? I also teach the algorithms. These are the main buckets, right? There are probabilistic models, general linear models, neighbor models, trees, SPMs, ensembles, neural networks, right? Today, AI is famous because of neural networks. There was a time it was famous because of SVMs. Okay, there was a time it became famous because of decision trees and random forests and things like that. So AI has its kind of cycles where it becomes popular, it becomes very important, and then it slightly the importance reduces. Um, and then there are a few extra topics that I talk about. For example, the system level thinking in machine learning, the explainability of AI, which is called XAI, the history of AI, it's a huge topic, and the limitations, okay? And these are some of the good books that are freely available and taught at more than 500 universities all over the world, okay? So we're not going to talk about all of this, okay? But I wanted to give an overview of like the terminologies that are there when it comes to AI, right? So what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the introduction, right? And what better way to start an introduction than the question why? Why are we talking about this? Why do we need AI ML? So I'll be frank. I want this to be interactive, and I people can just unmute and start talking when I ask a question because I won't move forward unless somebody answers. Okay. So tell me why should we learn and why are people interested in AI? Why are you guys interested in AI?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
we are
Excellent.
looking forward for the AI to solve problems which were not solved earlier because of other technology. So there is something which is unsolved, which has to be taken care by AI now. So there are problems which
Okay.
are unsolved.
Okay. You're talking about why we should pursue AI, why we should pursue this research, right? And that's because we want to solve our problems. But why does the whole world care about that research? I mean, we are not doing
Uh,
research in AI, right? Most of us. Yeah.
I think I can go. But I want to see how I can utilize it for like a good causes, and how can we influence it or like become contributors.
Okay. You want to influence AI research? Okay. Interesting. What else?
Yeah, I'm a physician, so I was thinking, what are the threats to my profession moving forward? Trying to understand the AI. And second, I'm still I'm using ChatGPT for most basic things, like for example, some of some of my
Okay.
some of my patients, like who have a very long visit and a lot of things going on. I put all the information in ChatGPT and tell them to summarize, and it has really helped me. So no, really, like pages and
Excellent.
pages and pages,
Excellent.
and I have compared that to my own search and then doing what the AI does.
Right.
And I have found that normally they don't miss anything very significant or pertinent. Yeah, so it has helped me a lot in like, getting the gist of there are a lot of unwanted things then when which is time consuming just to look at it and then discard it. Oh, this is of no use to me. But AI has helped me in that. And I always
Mhm.
keep looking for things that improve. Like in my office, I've tried to implement some AI for my phone calls and all, but it was a disaster, that one.
Excellent.
But
Okay.
yes, yes, and
Okay. So we'll actually
yes,
discuss, and I think you will understand why sometimes it's a disaster and why sometimes it just works like a genius, right? We'll come to that. Anyone else?
yes.
Anyone else? Anyone else? We have somebody
Well, I think
raising hands. Yeah.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. So I
Welcome.
am working as a principal software engineer, and for me, at times, as there is a change in the technology, I see there are certain things that I need to do myself, which is kind of time taking, which I usually use the Amazon queue for my integration and all those prod issues sometimes or
Mm,
something.
mm,
So
mm.
that's kind of what I do primarily. Yeah.
Okay. Mm. Okay. So we had a doctor who said who's worried about his job. I think software engineers are more worried about this, to be honest.
the,
Okay, so we'll have multiple answers. I know. Let's take one last more. Yes, Raza, Mr. Raza. Yeah.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. So my
Welcome, sir.
perspective is that as Muslims, we should really be at the forefront of any technology, any technological wave, and
Excellent.
we Muslims shouldn't really be, just following the trend, but we should be leading
Good, good,
us
good,
the right way.
good, 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 good. Very, very good answers. Okay, very, very good answers. But I'll share my perspective now, and I have a very simple answer to the question that why we should learn AI and why almost most of us should have some understanding. Okay, so have you guys heard of digital literacy? Right? You've heard of digital literacy? Yeah. What happens if you don't have digital literacy today? Okay, I'll share some snippets here. Digital literacy is actually a determinant of health today. Okay, how healthy you are depends on how digitally literate you are. Okay, these are all journal articles. The links are present. You can check them out. Digital literacy impacts quality of life among older adults. Okay, digital literacy is tied to civic engagement. We saw what happened in Nepal, right? And we know the role that social media has played. Digital literacy is also tied to your employment. According to a study, a little bit old study, I think a couple of years old, 80% of the uh, middle class workforce requires some sort of digital literacy. Okay, so this is the importance of digital literacy. Have you heard of legal literacy? Right? Yeah, all of us might have heard of something known as legal literacy, right? Legal literacy is actually been found to be associated with the amount of crime. So the amount of legal literacy of a community is directly proportional to the or inversely proportional to the amount of crime in that community. So the higher the the legal literacy in that place, the lower the crime. Okay. Um, it's also associated with how vulnerable you are to legal scams. Okay, and we are seeing nowadays the kinds of scams that are happening, right? So lack of legal literacy actually makes you more vulnerable, right? We also know that's directly associated to access to justice, right? Yeah, you're less aware of your rights. You're less likely to ask for those rights and ask for justice, right? In fact, it's so important that it's part of one of the acts of our constitution called Legal Service Authority Act, which mandates the governing authorities to provide legal services and legal education to communities which lack. Okay, so essentially, your competence, your efficiency in a society, and your ability to protect yourselves from all sorts of harms depends on how literate you are in terms of digital literacy and in terms of legal literacy, right? But nowadays we are surrounded by something new, right? Something different, and which is the algorithm, right? You guys, I mean, a lot of people are talking about how AI and how you guys are using AI, and let me quickly give a glimpse, right? This is ChatGPT statistics from last month: 800 million weekly active users, 1 billion queries per day. ChatGPT just has about 62% of the market share. So total people relying on LLM-like services is upwards of 1 billion, right? Search engines, every time you use a search engine, and not today, okay, not yesterday, even 10 years back, every single search engine that you have used relied on some kind of AI algorithm, okay? Any kind of personal assistants that you have at home, Alexa, Google Home, they rely on AI algorithms. I can actually see my video lagging. Is that observable for everyone?
Slightly it's there, but not much.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, there was a lag there. I couldn't tell, but I have a question. How many of you, all people in different time zones, what do you think? How many times you have used AI in the last half an hour? Just the last half an hour. You can put numbers on the chat. How many times do you think you have used an AI algorithm in the last half an hour? Okay, Salman Bhai is saying not this morning. 0. Wow, people don't use AI. 3. Okay. 5 to 8. Okay. I just actually gave you guys a hint. How many of you have how many of you have face unlock or fingerprint unlock in your phone? And how many times have you unlocked your phone using your finger or your face? Okay, so now I want you to rethink that number. Salman bhai, I don't think it's 0. Okay, so every time you use a social media application, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, the next post that needs to be shown to you is decided by an AI algorithm, right? Every time you open an entertainment page, whether it's Netflix or YouTube, the main page that you see is basically populated by a recommendation engine, right? Every time you're shopping on an e-platform, right? E-commerce platform, Amazon, Flipkart, these are the Indian ones I know. Whatever e-commerce platform you're using, every product recommendation that you see is generated by an AI algorithm. These are the robots now that work in place of people in Amazon warehouses. Okay, these are called Amazon bots. They do all the moving around of the shelves and moving around of the objects. The speed cameras, right? A lot of manufacturing industry actually looks like this. Okay. The entire logistics pipeline has been transformed to something that looks like this. These are automated belts that have cameras that scan the barcodes and tell where a package needs to go. Okay, and all of this happens automatically. Every time you apply for a financial instrument, whether it's a loan or a credit card, there's an AI algorithm that will decide whether you should get it or you should not get it or how much you should get it. Okay. These are the cities where you can actually take a robo-taxi today, a self-driving taxi. All the pink ones are cities in China. Okay, lots of cities in China. The purple ones are cities in US, and some of you here definitely must have experienced this. There's a city in Abu Dhabi as well, the green one, Abu Dhabi, right? The only one in the Middle East where you can actually take a full self-driving taxi. Food delivery by drone is just part of daily life in Shenzhen. Okay. People are now planning to use face recognition for ration distribution, even governments in the southern world. Hospitals in US use AI technology to detect lung cancer. Okay. There are algorithms that decide whether you get hired, fired, or paid. Okay. And finally, I think something relevant to our physician in our talk today is we have heard of robotic-assisted surgeries happening since a long time, but recently for the first time we had a surgery performed. This was not a real surgery; it was performed on fake cadavers without human assistance. Okay, without human assistance. Okay, so now you guys know how important digital literacy and legal literacy is, and now we are in a world where things, entire world is being run by this thing called the algorithm, right? So we are in this situation where you need to have AI literacy just to be competent in society and to protect yourself from vulnerabilities, right? So this was my argument for why we need to learn AI, right? Okay, so some terminology, some extremely essential terminology. First of all, so this is the first question. If you want to talk about AI, what is AI? Don't take too much time. Try to answer this. I have a very simple answer to this, and I think it's even partly visible. What is AI? Yeah, it is artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? What do you mean by artificial intelligence? Predictability, pattern recognition.
I mean, replicating the whole human intelligence, what all human intelligence can do, patterns, language.
Something which is
Perfect.
not natural.
I think Salman bhai hit the nail when he said artificial intelligence is just mimicry of human intelligence. Okay, nothing fancy here. Okay, it's a very simple thing, right? But what is actually difficult to answer is what is intelligence? Can anyone answer this? What is human intelligence?
Um, like a higher level thinking where basically you go beyond your immediate needs and try to form some things which are not relevant to immediate survival, but create things which
Ability to survive. Yeah. Yes, you mentioned a lot of things, Salman bhai, and people are also mentioning able to make decisions. Okay. So I have a few definitions here by psychologists. Okay. These are big short psychologists. Intelligence is the ability to judge well, reason well, act. Okay. Intelligence is the global aggregate capacity of an individual to think rationally, act purposefully, and to deal effectively with his or her environment. These are all kind of definitions that are trying to cognitively. There's 8, 9 intelligence. Yeah, that's an important distinction. So people have tried to define intelligence very generally. Okay, I have one more extremely general definition: an emergent system's ability to respond to its environment in order to improve its conditions, perpetuate itself, and maximize its freedom of action. Okay, these are again very general, trying to encompass everything. And if you think about these definitions are kind of backwards. Okay, the way they come up with these definitions is they think about humans are intelligent, right? We know that we are intelligent, right? We very proudly claim that we are the most intelligent species on this planet. So what do we do? What do we like? How do we behave? That should be the definition of intelligence. Okay, so these sort of backward these definitions have this tendency to be backwards. However, there is one better way to understand intelligence, which is it's essentially a collection of all these mental capabilities. Okay, and I'm seeing some amazing answers in the chat as well, right? So you have pattern recognition, you have abstract reasoning, problem solving, language comprehension, memory, capacity to learn and unlearn, and a lot of these I think did come up in the chat, and some of you also mentioned, right? So creativity, imagination, planning, right? Collection of all these abilities, mental abilities, is essentially what how we define intelligence, right? But people since a very long time have understood one thing, that for some reason, pattern recognition, the ability to find patterns, seems very, very fundamental to all of this. In fact, there are psychologists who have defined all of this using pattern recognition. They say, what is language comprehension? Comprehension is just being able to find patterns in the sentence structures, being able to break down the sentence into its constituent parts, parts of speech, and build these hierarchical syntactic structures, right? What is memory? Memory is the ability to find uh, patterns in unknown things, known patterns in unknown things. That's what memory is. Okay. Um, Capacity to learn is just the ability to learn new patterns. Okay. So psychologists have tried to do that. Okay. And they have always felt that pattern recognition is something more fundamental than all of this. Okay. So since this has been kind of the norm, computer scientists capitalize on that, and they said that, okay, excellent. What we'll do is we'll focus on building a machine that can find patterns, that can learn to find patterns. Okay. So, in fact, how do we test human intelligence? One of the most common ways of testing human intelligence is the IQ test, right? And IQ test is mostly just our ability to find patterns, right? Questions like these, right? So even to this day, we believe that a person's ability to find patterns is directly linked to that person's intelligence. Okay, obviously it's criticized. Somebody mentioned in the chat, there are other types of intelligence. There is emotional intelligence, there is social intelligence. All of that is there. But even to this day, people measure intelligence objectively using our ability to find patterns, right? So, so we get to this question, right? Are LLMs intelligent? Given what I actually shared about, that intelligence is all of this. What do you think? Do you think ChatGPT is intelligent?
Yeah, in terms of language formation. Yeah.
Okay. What about other things? Because we know intelligence is not just language. That's an interesting point. By itself, it's not.
Yeah. Are you able to see all the messages that are coming?
Yeah, I can. I think I'm not sure if I'm able to see all of them, but some of them are popping up. Yeah.
Some level of predictions, it is saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So, do you think this is how an intelligent person answers your question? I'm sure this must have been seen before by, this is something that went viral. Oh, so someone is saying it seems most of them are, yeah, I'll come to that. Intelligent compared to previous machine. So we don't expect an intelligent machine to behave like this, right? We've heard claims that LLMs can answer PhD level questions and have passed IIT exams and lead coding problems. They have solved all of them. Do you expect somebody who has PhD level knowledge will not be able to answer this? Okay, I want you guys to wonder about this. This is actually something. This is not real. It's not proof that it's real, but this is something funny that became viral. This, by the way, ChatGPT 5. So, what we need to understand is um, when you see this behavior that something performs really well, and this came up earlier in the discussion that sometimes it outperforms its expectations and sometimes it performs horribly well, it goes horrible, is because this is spectrum. Okay, this is an important spectrum that we need to understand. All of you must have heard of AGI, right? AGI. So what is AGI? AGI is when we have been able to build a machine that is so adaptable and so flexible that it can perform well in all tasks. Okay, it shouldn't be that it's able to answer PhD level questions, but it cannot count the number of characters in a word. Okay, that is AGI. Everything other than that is actually something that we call as narrow intelligence. It's something that can perform well in a very specific task and not beyond that. Okay, and I ask this question many times, like, where do you think we are in this spectrum? And sometimes people say we have already reached ASI, right? If you're not well informed in the in how AI works, and you focus on the news and the hype, you will start believing that, oh, we have already built ASI, right? AGI version 0, no. So in fact, right now we are nowhere close to crossing the line that goes from ANI to AGI. We are still in very much still in ANI. Okay. So next question. Now we know what is AI. It's just mimicry of human intelligence. We have some idea of human intelligence, what it is. It's a collection of lot of mental capabilities, which, by the way, I forgot to mention that we have no idea how any of those capabilities work. Okay. No psychologist, no neuroscientist, no doctor in the world. We have a doctor who can confirm what I'm saying, has been able to tell how memory works, or how language works, or how any of these things work. Okay, we have some idea of, let's say hippocampus is the region where short-term memory gets converted to long-term memory, or some idea that memory is not located in some specific location, but is distributed all over the brain. We have these kind of ideas, but we have no idea how our brain converts chemical and electrical signals to these cognitive abilities. We have no idea. Okay, and this is one of the first limitations we have in building anything that's human-like. Okay, so now we know slightly what is AI, what is intelligence. Let's talk about what is ML. Okay, what is machine learning? There are a few definitions, famous definitions I have that I teach to that are essential to learn for people who are interested in pursuing AI, but I'm not going to spend much time here. But I will mention something that is extremely simple that you can take away from this session, which is ML, machine learning, is finding patterns. Okay. So we are trying to build artificial intelligence. Okay. The development of machines or systems which learn and adapt. Okay. Yes. Yes. So it's sort of recursive, machines that learn and adapt. But what is machine learning, right? Machine learning is the ability of a machine to find patterns. That's all, simplistically speaking. That's what the psychologists have focused on when it comes to human intelligence, and that's what computer scientists focused on when it came to building or when it came to mimicking human intelligence. Okay, the ability to find patterns. Okay, so there's this idea of traditional programming, and I think some of you might be from the IT background. Athama, that's tunable to find patterns. Yeah, you're right. So this is how traditional programming works. Okay, and the reason we are talking about traditional programming is because one of the definitions of machine learning is the field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Okay, what does it mean without being explicitly programmed? So programming, right, the normal sort of programming that we know, essentially has this model. Okay, you have an input, and you have a pattern, which can be, say, business logic, which can be, say, a maths formula, or anything, or a relationship, right? You have an input and you have this business logic. You use the program to then get an output from it. Okay, asking a task in natural language and get the code. I'm not sure what that is an answer for. So This is how normal programming works. Okay. What happens in machine learning is we just flip the equation a little bit, and we say that we don't know the pattern. Okay. When you know the pattern, when you know the formula that you want to work, when you already have a business logic, you don't need machine learning. Okay, because you have the business logic, you have the formula. Okay. You need machine learning when you don't have the business logic, when you don't know how things work, when you don't know what is the underlying mechanism. Okay. So a machine learning program, what it does is it takes input and it takes output also as the input. So input and output, both of them are the input, and you get the pattern as the output. Okay. This is what is different between programming, okay, and machine learning. And the question comes, we all know that when you talk about AI, when you talk about machine learning, there is always a discussion of data, right? Data, this, data, that, big data, learning using data. What is data? Data is this, input and output. This is data. Data is the collection of inputs and outputs. Okay. If any of you have any questions, feel free to, ping it in the chat. I think I can see most of the chats. Now, what is Gen AI? You know what is the traditional program? You know what is a machine learning program? What is Gen AI? You guys can answer and unmute and answer if you want. I think this is some of the fundamental terminology you expected to get out of a section that talks about AI, right?
I think Gen AI is where you actually end up creating new data, and as opposed to just working, or I guess using the existing data.
Okay, so you're saying generating data using existing data. Yeah, almost there. Not almost there, you're almost perfect. Yeah.
Creating the
Yes.
artificial intelligence based on the patterns.
Creating artificial intelligence based on patterns. That is the definition of machine learning, not Gen AI. Generating non-existent data. Yes, that's correct. Arranging existing data in MSD. Okay, can anybody figure out in this framework that we're talking, what is Gen AI? What do you think is the input and what do you think is the output? I have a framework in front of you where I'm telling you how traditional programming works. I'm telling you how machine learning programming works. Now I'm asking you in this framework, how do you think Gen AI works? I got some ideas that we are generating new data.
So just guessing the pattern that you obtain using new input to generate output based on the pattern, learned pattern.
So what is the input? What is the input to a Gen AI program?
So the input is the what you have in your box input, and then instead of ML program you have pattern in that box, and then you have.
Yeah, so the inputs to a normal program, there are two inputs, the input and the pattern, right? Both of these are inputs. Okay, by input we mean, for example, you have a normal program, let's say a converter, a program that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius, right? And you want to input Fahrenheit and you want to get Celsius, right? A simple program, right? This is how traditional programming works. So the input will be the Fahrenheit value, right? Let's say 98 degrees Fahrenheit. The pattern is the formula which helps us convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, that pattern also you need to give it to the program, right? It's not already present in the program. So you need to give the formula, 34, whatever, 32 plus 9, whatever it is, some formula is there, right? So there you have the pattern, you have the input, which is the input degrees in Fahrenheit, and the output you get is the degrees in Celsius, right? This is how a normal program works. In a machine learning program, suppose you don't know the formula, right? Suppose I don't know the formula, but I have this table where I have, okay, this 98 degrees Fahrenheit is this degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Fahrenheit is this degrees. So I have a table, but I don't have the formula. So what machine learning program can do, if I give it that table, it will be able to find the formula for me. Okay. So in this context, what do you think is GenAI? I think a lot of people have tried. Let me give you the answer. GenAI is essentially you giving the pattern as the input, and both the input and the output are the output of this program. Okay. All it needs is the pattern. It does not even need the input. It will generate an input for you from the pattern. Okay. Any doubts here? Anybody still confused? See, all these terms are being floating around everywhere, and you might have heard of these terms in talks. And so I want you guys to take something from this session. So the fundamental understanding. Yeah.
So do you not require a prompt? Like the prompt will not be the input here?
Okay. So
like maybe an example
the way
would be,
GenAI,
example would be good for this one.
okay. Okay. So one of the examples I actually gave. So GenAI, yeah.
Can we just go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
So here input and output you're feeding and you're getting a pattern, right? So when you say input and output, is it again like a pattern of input and output?
No. Input and output is essentially, as I said, right? Let's say you have a program that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius.
So let's say I have input
So what will be
0
your
degree.
input?
Yeah. Sorry?
What will be your input in this case?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
So if you have a program that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Yeah. Maybe
So the pattern would be like 98 degrees would be 38 degrees and 90. So that just the numbers. 98 is Fahrenheit is 38 degrees Celsius, and 100 degrees is that's a pattern. Okay.
That's the input.
Okay.
That's the input. So in fact, okay, so people are confused in this. We actually have a case study. We'll do a small case study where you'll understand. You'll understand the difference between a pattern and the input and output. Okay, we'll actually come to that. It's actually just one of the next topics only. So now people think about how are the and I think Salman bhai, your question remained unanswered, where you asked for an example for a GenAI program, and I think even that will partly be answered in one of the next slides. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. We'll come to all these questions. Okay, now how are these terms related? AI, ML, GenAI. You guys must have come across these sort of circles, right? And I actually think all of this is nonsense, but there are people who just like to talk about this, okay? How machine learning is a circle inside AI and deep learning is a circle inside. So all of this is nonsense. GenAI is not part of deep learning, okay? In fact, I was going to give an example to Salman bhai about of a GenAI. One of the simplest examples is actually a probability distribution. A probability distribution, sampling from probability distribution is an example of GenAI. And some people, I think Salman bhai can understand this example, but I'll give better examples for other people. Okay, so GenAI is not something that depends on neural networks or something that is very new. Okay, statistical sampling is one of the simplest examples of generative AI. Okay, and at a high level, essentially that's what happens, even in complicated GenAI applications. Okay, so all of these kinds of things, if you see a talk which only talks about these things, run from that class. Okay, because all this is nonsense. This is one of the something that comes closest to reality. But even this has problems. AI is actually just composed of two things. So this whole empty space is just pointless. There's something known as symbolic AI, which is actually the old AI, okay, which was the AI of 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even till 1990s. The AI that we studied and we applied was the symbolic AI. Symbolic AI today is dead, okay? It does not exist anymore, okay? And today, the only other AI that we have is machine learning. Okay, these are the only two AIs. Okay, and deep learning is a technique of machine learning. Okay, so as I said, the simplest ways of understanding what is machine learning is the process to make a machine intelligent. How do we become intelligent? How do we get intelligent? Mostly by learning, right? We learn to become intelligent, and that's what machines do. Machines learn to become intelligent. Okay, so machine learning is all the processes, all the techniques that you can apply on a machine to make it intelligent. That is machine learning. Okay. People ask, then what about data science? How is that related to AI and machine learning and Gen AI and all this? And again, you'll see a lot of these charts. Okay, these are all nonsense. Apparently here data science is something that overlaps all the circles. Here data science is a circle outside artificial intelligence. Okay. Here data science is the union of the intersection of maths, statistics on one side, and AI, machine learning, and deep learning on one side. So don't pay attention to all these kinds of things. Data science is just one of the applications of machine learning. Okay, you can use machine learning to just focus on understanding the data. Okay, you have huge amounts of data, you want to understand it, and you want to make some predictions out of it. You'll still be using machine learning techniques, but your focus is just understanding data. Okay, when your focus increases and you want to go beyond just understanding data, you want to build practical applications. You want to be able to have a camera, find out if the object in the camera is a person or an animal. If you want to build applications, right? All the applications that we saw earlier, okay? Whether it's robotics or high-speed cameras or face recognition, right? You're essentially using machine learning to build a system that is intelligent, okay? So data science is just something that is more focused. This is a very important image from one of the books that I shared earlier, and this sort of gives a very nice overview of how these things are related. And in anybody who is more interested in understanding the terminology, this is a very good figure. It tells us that, so you remember some of the tasks that I showed you, major tasks in AI and machine learning. We had vision, we had language, we had reasoning. We also had these four, okay, and these four: regression, dimensionality, reduction, density estimation, classification are considered the pillars of this entire field of machine learning, okay, and essentially the entire field of AI. Okay, and all of these pillars, very importantly, rest on these foundations. Okay, and these are just subjects from maths. Okay, so I specialize in teaching these fundamentals, and I believe that in future, as you already saw what's happening right now, and in future, these will be some of the things that will be absolutely essential for you to be efficient in the society and for you to be able to protect yourself from vulnerabilities. Okay, so these were the few terminologies. Now we will we'll look at this idea of learning patterns. Okay, and this will hopefully clarify some of the questions that people had. So I hope I have at least conveyed one important fact, just one, which is Machine learning is nothing but the ability to find patterns. I hope I have done that. Okay. Yeah. So what is learning patterns? How do we learn patterns? Let's see. So now let's do this case study. Okay, small case study. Imagine you are an employee, okay, and you have applied to a company for a job, and you want to know what kind of salaries they usually give. Okay. So what do is you go to Glassdoor, right? And you find out about this company and you try to find what type of salaries do these people give, and you get this table. Okay. Now you have 3 years of experience. Let's imagine. Okay. And you get this table, and the table shows, you already have an answer. Table shows a person who has 1 year of experience get 30,000 and 40,000 and 60,000, so on. Now the problem is that data does not have the salary for someone who has 3 years of experience. That's the experience you have. Okay. So what do you think will be that salary? All you have is this table, right? And you want to find out what should be your salary. So in fact, even before I asked the question, people had already answered 50,000, right? And is it obvious for everyone? Just give me a thumbs up. Just give me a thumbs up. Is it obvious that the salary in this company for someone who has 3 years of experience should be 50,000, right? Now, I want you to think, yeah, exactly. I want you to think how you came up with that answer, and that too instantaneously, right? You didn't have to do math calculations. Now you remember this is the framework that we had. This is how a machine learning program works, right? You have input, output, and the pattern, and this is how a normal program works, okay? And what I'm going to tell you right now is your brain actually did 2 steps instantaneously. The first one was finding the pattern from this data, okay? And how did you do that? You had an input. What is the input? Years of experience, okay? This is the input column. This whole column is the input column, okay? Is it getting clear what was input? Some people asked before, what is input, right? Yeah. So this column is the input, okay? What is the output? Output is the salary, the second column, okay? So you saw this table, you saw the input column, you saw the output column, and instantly your brain found a pattern, okay? And that pattern actually looks like a line, okay? It even has an equation, y is equal to mx plus c, where m is, I think, 20,000 or 10,000, I think, yeah? M is 10,000 and c will be 20,000. Your brain came up with that equation instantly. Okay, you didn't even know, you didn't have to think about that equation, but your brain did. Okay, it found that pattern. In fact, I'm not sure if I can use the board because I was hoping to set up my camera properly, which would show you. But the graph you can see, right, with a line, that's almost what this equations line graph would look like. Okay, and so I told you, your brain did 2 things. The first one was finding the pattern. The second was actually applying the pattern. And so what you did was you took the new input. Okay, what is the new input? The input that is not present in your data. Okay, a data point that your brain has never seen before. It does not exist in front of you, right? It's not part of the table, right? It's something new. Okay, so you took that new input. You took also that pattern, right? And you applied all of that and you used that pattern. So the first step was finding that pattern. And the second step was using that pattern, and you use that pattern and you instantly got the answer, which is the output, which is 50,000. Okay, so your brain did these two things instantaneously. And all we want to do is build systems, machines that can do this. Okay, so let me know now. Is part of it clear? What exactly is finding patterns? And what I'm going to do is I just want you to be convinced that all kinds of machine learning wasn't the ability to zero into the specific. So long chats actually get missed. So Abu Huraira, let me check your message. Wasn't the ability to zero into this specific pattern only as opposed to other possible patterns unique here? What do you mean by unique? You can give an unmute and ask your question. That'll be more interesting.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum Hamza bhai.
Welcome, Salam. Yeah.
I was curious in terms of, I was wondering about the relevance part of it, right? How the input defined a certain criteria, which kind of also pre-configured the direction you can explore in a way. So in any set, they could have been, for example, I may ask, I don't know if I'm making sense here or not, but let me try.
Yes,
Like,
go
for
ahead.
example, let's going through a research paper, and my question, the act of asking question itself would highlight a certain kind of answer, right? Because the question itself will bake a certain answer or direction in it. But there could be many more possible sort of patterns available at that moment. I mean, isn't that efficiency about its ability to quickly arrive at this particular pattern? I mean, at least in the natural, for the human being itself, right? When you ask this question, I have not gone sort of in a very brutal fashion to explore all the possibilities and then say amongst those possibilities this is existing. The fact that the moment you ask me the question, I only go there and seek that answer, for example. I think that for me also felt like something that is unique to us, and also this with Gen I.
Yeah, actually, so I want to understand what your question is. Are you saying that this is extremely powerful for a human being to be able to do?
Yeah,
and not explore all possibilities and
yeah,
hone
yeah,
into one.
yeah, and there was a relevance part of it. Like you can hone into the relevance. But you only go here and not anywhere else in
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah, this is something powerful that we have, and so these are some of the capabilities that are very difficult to explain, even by people who are studying the brain for a very long time, right? Isn't that like indexing? What do you mean by indexing? The one that Google uses for ranking pages. Are you talking about that? You can unmute and ask if, because I'm not able to, or probably you're talking about, no, it's not. It's not. See, indexing is just memory retrieval. Okay. So do you think you had memorized this data? Was it part of your school curriculum or college curriculum? If it was, if I had asked you what is 3 times 7, you'd probably say 21. That is probably indexing, but this was not. Okay. This was definitely not indexing because you were not taught this. When you taught this data set before, somebody told you that, this question is going to come, so the answer will be 50,000. If somebody did, and you did remember that, then that would be indexing. Am I clear? Does that make sense? Yeah. So indexing is just memory retrieval. And that's not what you did when you said 50,000. Okay. You actually saw this thing for the first time. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
So, are you saying the fourth one that you've shown where we input the pattern and then you input and output, is that the Gen AI you are referring to, or what is that fourth one called?
The first one? What do you mean the first one? The left one?
The fourth
This
one on the right bottom.
Yeah, so see the way I have arranged them, can you see the similarity between, we already discussed how a traditional program works, right? This is how a traditional program works. You have to give it an input. In this case, so imagine if the company had a software that decided what will be the salary given the experience. Okay, just imagine that. I mean, HR people have all sorts of software, right? So imagine they also had a software which they used to decide what they should pay to someone they have hired recently. Okay, so what they would do, they would ask, okay, this guy, okay, Mr. Aman, he has 2 years of experience, so they would enter 2 in that software, and the output you would get is 40,000. Now that software is working on a formula, right? To be able to give you 40,000 from 2, it should have a formula, right? That's how all software work in the whole world and have been working since the 1950s and 1960s when we first started building software. Okay, you give an input and you expect an output based on some formula, some business logic, right? That's how, for example, websites work. When you click on a button, there is a logic that tells what should happen when you click that button, right? There's a bunch of if-else rules. If you click on this, you will go there. If you click on this, you will go there. Got it? No, we're not in Gen AI. We're not in Gen AI. This is fundamental pattern matching. Okay, all machine learning. Okay, all machine learning is fundamentally pattern matching. If we understand pattern matching, if we understand what is pattern matching and how machines learn to find patterns, you understand everything. Okay. So when you look at the entire process, this is how a machine learning model is built. You have an input, you have an output. There's something known as a machine learning algorithm that finds the pattern. This pattern is the star of the show. That pattern can be in the form of a mathematical formula, okay, in the form of a geometrical relationship, whatever it is. This is the star of the show. Okay, you get the star. Then what you do? This process of finding that pattern is actually called training in machine learning. That's when you're training a model, right? We've heard of how billions of dollars are spent on training ChatGPT, right? So this is what is happening when they're training a model. They have a bunch of inputs and outputs. Those inputs and outputs collectively are called data, as you saw before, right? This is what data is. This is what data looks like. Here in this simplest example, we have one input, one output. Okay, we'll see how you can have more inputs also. Okay, and once you have the pattern, all you need to do is give it a new input, okay, and it will give you the prediction. And this process is called inference. Okay, this is the entire machine learning process. Now, some other examples of model means an intelligence system. See, model means a pattern. Okay, I don't want to complicate things. I want to simplify things. Okay, model also means an intelligence system, but like there's nothing new in that, right? Model, what is model fundamentally? A model fundamentally is just a pattern, a mathematical formula. Okay. So this was a very simple example. Okay. And that's why you were able to do absolutely instantly, right? But most of the problems in the world are not simple like this. Okay. That's why we use machine learning. And machine learning is also, that's why called, one of the other definitions, pattern matching at scale. I think we're going beyond our time. That's why Salman Bhai has opened his camera, probably to tell me that we are going beyond our time. I'll speed up. Should I speed up?
Yeah, I think we can, take up the questions later, just maybe explain the concepts clearly, and then if they have questions, they can also ask them on the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, so these are just some examples of how actual real data sets look like, right? So if you guys have seen how Car Dekho predicts price, right? So if you give it your car details, it will find all these things about your car and it will try to predict the price. So here the input is these 12 things and the output is your price, okay? So now imagine if you're given this huge table of 12 columns and thousands or hundreds of thousands of rows, and you are asked that tell me the price of this car, you won't be able to do, right? That's why we need machine learning. Okay. This is the reason we need machine learning, because we can do pattern matching instantly for small things, but we cannot do it at scale. Okay. And that's why we need machine learning. And the other reason we need machine learning is because we don't know the formula behind the price of a car or the price of a house. If we knew, if somebody had spent, decades of their life finding out the formula like these people have done, right? V is equal to IR. This is a simple formula between voltage and current, right? For example, the equation of gravity. Somebody spent years and years to find the formula of how gravity behaves, right? And because they spent years and years finding the formula, we don't need machine learning to find what is the gravity at this point. If they hadn't done that, today we would be using machine learning to find out what is the gravity at a certain point. Okay, so the fact that I'm not going to go into all of this. The fact that nobody has been able to find the formulas behind these complicated problems like the price of a house, the price of a car, is the reason we need machine learning. Okay, and if you allow me some time, I can maybe 2-3 minutes go through the hype.
Yeah. So are you also covering the kind of the neural networks here, or just
No.
Okay.
It would be very difficult to talk about neural networks within 1 hour.
Okay.
But
Okay.
maybe we can plan a session.
Yeah, we can plan separately, and probably
Yeah.
in some session maybe we can do some of the common ways, common models, and then a little bit of neural network at a high level, maybe in some future presentation. Okay.
Okay. So I'll end my talk if I don't have time. Salman bhai, if you allow me, I'll take 2-3 minutes and quickly wrap up hype. If not, we'll take questions. Ranish. Oh, okay. So I was just asking Salman bhai, if I have 2-3 minutes, I can cover the small topic hype. Yeah? Okay, thank you. So now, because our models have become more and more complicated, right? And it's difficult to say that ChatGPT, for example, can do all these amazing things just using pattern matching. The layers of abstraction that have built are actually quite a few. So people tend to forget that at the end of the day is just pattern matching. And because people forget that, you have these people creating all sorts of hype. But what I want to talk today is this hyping is not new. Okay, it has always been there, and I'll share some examples. This is from 1957, where this Herbert Simon, he was not a small guy, he was one of the founding fathers of AI, okay, and he says, there are now in the world machines that think, that learn, and that create. He's talking about 1957, remember. Programming languages did not exist at that time. And this guy is saying that there are machines that think, that learn. Because they were able to build very simplistic systems that mimicked some very rudimentary behaviors of human intelligence. And that was enough for them to create that hype. Okay. And the same thing is happening today. What we see is so intelligent, and how ChatGPT is not making mistakes when I ask them about these things and that things. 10 years down the line, you will laugh at the idea of people calling ChatGPT intelligent. Because it's something that happens for the first time. And we have very, very low expectations from machines, typically. That's one of the reasons why we are so impressed. Okay, so this is from 1958, Alan Newell, again one of the big guys, big shots. He said within 10 years, a digital computer will discover and prove an important new mathematical theorem. He said this in 1958. It has been more than 60 years. It hasn't happened till now. Okay. 1961, Marvin Minsky. Within our lifetime, machines may surpass us in general intelligence. This guy said this in 1961. He said within our lifetime, this guy has already died. It hasn't happened till now. Okay. Again, machines will be capable within 20 years of doing any work a man can do. 20 years has been more than 60 years. Not happen. Okay. So this idea of being overexcited and being too optimistic about technology, and specifically technology that is trying to mimic human intelligence, is not something new. Okay, it's been happening. In fact, it's not just happened once. I'll show you. So in 1973, after all this hype was created, a report came out, the Lighthill report. You can Google about it, the Lighthill report. It said that, it basically criticized all the hype, and it said that I think you guys are just faking it. And somebody recently, what they did was they compared this 1973 Lighthill report with a report that had come recently in 2024 by Goldman Sachs, which had this heading, Gen AI, too much spend, too little benefit. And they found they found both of them extremely similar in their criticism. You guys might have heard of this MIT report. 95% of all Gen AI pilots have failed. Okay. You guys also must have heard of this paper by researchers at Apple, who said that the large language models now rely on another set of models that are called large reasoning models, and they found out that these large reasoning models, they're not really reasoning. They're just creating an illusion of reasoning. Okay. So as I said, this hasn't happened before. Okay. So we saw those 1950s, 1960s where people were so excited about AI, right? The Lighthill report burst that bubble. Okay. And then people got less interested in AI. And then it happened again in 1980s. Okay. Where we were building expert systems. Okay. In fact, there's a chatbot from around that time, much before that time, actually, in around 1960s. You can Google it up. It's called Eliza, E-L-I-Z-A. Google it up. Okay. Just interact with it. It's available for interaction. Interact with it and tell me, what do you think about these people who were so optimistic about AI after building Eliza? They built Eliza. It's actually very stupid compared to what we have today. Okay. It just if you ask it a question, it will ask you a question back. Okay. And just the fact that a computer was asking you a question back, which just seemed sort of relevant, was so bizarre to people that they said that, AGI is 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. But if you interact with it today, you will laugh at it. You'll probably laugh at all these researchers, right, who are making these big claims based on what they had built. Okay, so this has happened twice before, and we know it's going to happen again. It's what do you say? It's inevitable. Okay, so the hype that's created today, it's inevitable that it's going to burst. Okay, yeah, somebody has shared the link of Eliza. Go and play with it. I hope it's the one that was built that time. So this is it. This is what I wanted to talk. I hope there was some takeaways for the people here. This was not just one of those AI talks which you hear all the time, where there's less content but more talking. In fact, such talks have been building all the hype. So I am on a mission against that, and I'm trying to break. Yeah, thank you. Breaking misconceptions. Any questions?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, Hamza. The awesome. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. My question is how far the podiums of masajid will be so behind to convey this very important challenges to humanity, at the same time testifying, verifying, and absolute certification of glorious Quran, warning and messages of that Allah created in the best format. And I have the best design for you. I have given Allama al-insana ma'alam ya'lam. All this glorious message of the Quran will not bring, has to be at the same level of match at the masajid members. We have a lot more work to do with our khatibs and some process of education as the previous, mashallah, accomplishment of many great scholars earlier. They were multi-skilled in every level. And that awareness has to be promoted while you are talking about we need to connect spiritually along with the secular aspect. That's my comment. Thank you. May Allah bless you and Salman for initiating